The brain is the largest and most complex organ in the body, and it controls every function in your body. It helps control the functions such as sense, touch, vision, and even reasoning and learning. There is a whole group of researchers dedicated to the study of the brain. Neurology. There is still little known about the mind. We can put a man on the moon but still not understand the brain fully. There is much research needed to understand this complex organ and its many functions. Having experienced a first-hand traumatic brain injury, and even though I had the top doctors working with me, questions were still unanswered. As previously stated, the brain is one of the largest and most complex organs in the human body. The brain is divided into 4 lobes, and the brain is surrounded by a tissue called meninges. The brain is the most complex organ in the body. The brain is made up of billions of nerve cells called neurons. Neurons contain 3 important parts that work together to contain physical sensations and body movements. Neurons are constantly active even when we are asleep. The pattern and strength of the connection of the brain is always changing. There are many parts that comprise the brain. They are working together constantly to create our experiences, personality, and even who we are. Each side of the brain contains 4 lobes: the frontal, parietal, optical, and temporal lobe. No 2 brains are alike, therefore, we all process things differently. The frontal lobe is important for cognitive functions and control of voluntary movement and activity. The parietal lobes process information and temperature, taste, touch, and movement. It is located just behind the frontal lobe. The optical lobe is primarily responsible for vision and is located at the back of the brain. The temporal lobe processes integrates with the sensation, including taste, touch, and sound. The 4 lobes of the brain function in their own unique way but work together to create unique experiences and responses. There are many conditions that can affect the brain. A deficiency in neurochemicals of the brain are linked to a certain disease. A loss of domain, a compound found in neurotransmitters in the brain in the basal ganglia, which is responsible for movements, leads to Parkinson's disease. When flow or oxygen are suddenly interrupted to an area of the brain tissue, then the tissue dies, and this is known as a stroke. Concussion, an injury to the brain that causes temporary damage to the brain. Epilepsy, otherwise known as seizures, has no identified cause. Dementia, a decline in cognitive function resulting from damage to malfunction of the nerve cells. A traumatic brain injury, also known as a TBI, is an injury to the brain that causes oftentimes permanent damage to the brain and leaves a person with mental impact, personality, or mood changes. There are just a few diseases that can affect the brain. There are many others, and still little is known about how we can cure them. The brain is a complex organ that controls who we are. This delicate organ is susceptible to injury and disease like any other part of the body. There is still much research needed to understand this complex of the brain.